Hello and welcome back. Welcome back. I'm John, an old YouTuber and PC gamer. It's Saturday, it's early Saturday evening. I just spent 4 hours to make updated read lists. So I will read this East Germany. I will read this Finnish. Then I update this old read list there. I have updated that. I will read this, but I'm not going to tell if that's a Zilog. Then the Zilog CPUs, all 8-bit to 64-bit computings. What is micro personal PCs, desktop. Then think proper should do the semiconductor industries. I have it here. What is semiconductor industries and who is manufacture this semiconductors. Before I start to read about what they are making, how you making this CPU integrated circuits, how they do the wafers, what is a CPU, doing this wafers by crystal silicon. They use solar cell and this MOSFET, how they do the CPUs, dice microarchitecture. No, then I should do this semiconductor industries. And probably I should do opposite then. I should do like how they make it. Before I do all this all this process, I don't know, I'll think about that. Then I will go back to the all the Intel CPUs. Got a long list there. From the Intel 80 up to the Alder Lake, but I think about how I should do it. But now I have to watch the news in less 1 hour, 18:30. That's 6:30 p.m. We have the news in the Danish television. Of course, I have to do this video about Ukraine. That's day 80 after Russia have attacked Ukraine today and got like 6.1 million refugees from Ukraine into the EU, European Union, most through Poland, like 3.3 million refugees from Ukraine to Poland. That's really a lot, and there could be more than 5 or 6 million or more. So let's do this like 15 minutes. Then I have to watch the news and make this video in Danish, Ukraine video. Then I have like 14 videos about this read list. I had to upload after that. So that will take the whole evening to do that. So I had to read it page by page.
Manfred Stolp became a lawyer for the Brandenburg Protestant Church in 1959 before taking up a position at church headquarters in Berlin. In 1969 he helped found the Bund der Evangelistischen Kirchen in der DDR, BEK, where he negotiated with the government while at the same time working within the institutions of his Protestant body. He won the regional elections for the Brandenburg State Assembly at the head of the SPD list in 1990. Stolp remained in the Brandenburg government until he joined the federal government in 2002. Apart from the Protestant state churches, German, Landeskirchen, united in the EKD/BEK and the Catholic Church, there was a number of smaller Protestant bodies, including Protestant Free Churches, German, Evangelist Free Kirchen, united in the Federation of the Free Protestant Churches in the German Democratic Republic and the Federation of the Free Protestant Churches in Germany, as well as the Free Lutheran Church, the Old Lutheran Church and Federation of the Reformed Churches in the German Democratic Republic. The Moravian Church also had its presence as the Herrnhuter Brudergemeine. There are also other Protestants such as Methodists, Adventists, Mennonites and Quakers. Catholicism. Katholiken-Tag, Dresden, 1987, left to right. Bishop Karl Lehmann and Cardinals Gerhard Ska, Franz Joseph Ratzinger, the future Pope Benedict XVI, and Joachim Meisner. The smaller Catholic Church in Eastern Germany had a fully functioning episcopal hierarchy in full accord with the Vatican. During the early post-war years, tensions were high. The Catholic Church as a whole, and particularly the bishops, resisted both the East German state and Marxist-Leninist ideology. The state allowed the bishops to lodge protests, with the did on issues such as abortion. 118. After 1945, the Church did fairly well in integrating Catholic exiles from lands to the east, which mostly became part of Poland, and in adjusting its institutional structures to meet the needs of a church within an officially atheist society. This meant an increasingly hierarchical church structure, whereas in the area of religious education, press, and youth organizations, a system of temporary staff was developed, one that took into account the special situation of Caritas, a Catholic charity organization. By 1950, therefore, there existed a Catholic sub-society that was well adjusted to prevailing specific conditions and capable of maintaining Catholic identity. 119, with a generational change in the episcopacy taking place in the early 1980s, the state hoped for better relations with the new bishops, but the new bishops instead began holding unauthorized mass meetings, promoting international ties in discussions with theologians abroad, and hosting ecumenical conferences. The new bishops became less politically oriented and more involved in pastoral care and attention to spiritual concerns. The government responded by limiting international contacts for bishops. 120, list of apostolic administrators of Furtmeiningen. Görlitz, Magdeburg, Schwerin. Culture. East Germany's culture was strongly influenced by communist thought and was marked by an attempt to define itself in opposition to the West, particularly West Germany and the United States. Critics of the East German state have claimed that the state's commitment to communism was a hollow and cynical tool, Machiavellian in nature, but this assertion has been challenged by studies that have found that the East German leadership was genuinely committed to the advance of scientific knowledge, economic development, and social progress. However, Pence and Betts argue, the majority of East Germans over time increasingly regarded the state's ideals to be hollow, though there was also a substantial number of East Germans who regarded their culture as having a healthier, more authentic mentality than that of West Germany. 121. GDR culture and politics were limited by the harsh censorship. 122. Music. The October Club in 1967, pop singer Frank Cabell, center, giving autographs in 1980. The Puddies and Carrot were some of the most popular mainstream bands in East Germany. Like most mainstream acts, they were members of the SED, appeared in state-run popular youth magazines such as Noise Leden and Magazine. Other popular rock bands were Woo, City, Silly and Pankow. Most of these artists recorded on the state-owned Amiga label, or were required to open live performances and albums with the East German national anthem. 123. Schlager, which was very popular in the West, also gained a foothold early on in East Germany, and numerous musicians such as Gerd Christian, Aware Jensen, and Hartmut Skulls-Jelak gained national fame. From 1962 to 1976, An international Schlager festival was held in Rostock, garnering participants from between 18 and 22 countries each year. 124. The city of Dresden held a similar international festival for Schlager musicians from 1971 until shortly before reunification. 125. There was a national Schlager contest hosted yearly in Magdeburg from 1966 to 1971 as well. 126. Bands and singers from other socialist countries were popular. For example, Chałwanka from Poland, known as the Rotgitarren. 127. 128. Czech Karel Gott, the Golden Voice from Prague, was beloved in both German states. 129. Hungarian band Omega performed in both German states, and Yugoslavian band Kanigrupa toured East Germany in the 1970s. 130. 131. West German television and radio could be received in many parts of the East. The Western influence led to the formation of more underground groups with a decisively Western-oriented sound. A few of these bands, the so-called Die Anderen bands. The other bands were Die Skeptiker, Die Art and Feeling B. Additionally, hip-hop culture reached the ears of East German youth. With videos such as Beat Street and Wild Style, young East Germans were able to develop a hip-hop culture of their own. 132. East Germans accepted hip-hop as more than just a music form. The entire street culture surrounding rap entered the region and became an outlet for oppressed youth. 133. The government of the GDR was invested in both promoting the tradition of German classical music, and in supporting composers to write new works in that tradition. Notable East German composers include Hans Eiler, Paul Dessau, Ernst Hermann Meyer, Rudolf Wagner-Regini, and Kurt Schwell. The birthplace of Johann Sebastian Bach, 1685-1750, Eisenach, was rendered as a museum about him, featuring more than 300 instruments, which, in 1980, received some 70,000 visitors. In Leipzig, the Bach archive contains his compositions and correspondence and recordings of his music. 134. Governmental support of classical music maintained some 168 publicly funded concert, opera, chamber, and radio orchestras, such as Gewandhausorchester and Thomanerchor in Leipzig, Sächsische Staatskapelle in Dresden, and Berliner Sinfonieorchester and Staatsoper unter den Linden in Berlin. 135. Kurt Marschweister, prominent conductor. 136. Theatre. Playwright Bertolt Brecht, 1898-1956. East German theatre was originally dominated by Bertolt Brecht, who brought back many artists out of exile and reopened the Theater am Schiffbauerdamm with his Berliner Ensemble. 137. Alternatively, other influences tried to establish a working-class theatre, played for the working class by the working class. After Brecht's death, conflicts began to arise between his family, around Helene Weigel, and other artists about Brecht's legacy, including Zlatan Dudau. 138. Erwin Jeschkenek, 139. Erwin Strittmatter, Peter Hacks, Benno Besson, 140. Peter Palitzsch, 141, and Ekkehard Skal. 142. In the 1950s, the Swiss director Benno Besson with the Deutsches Theater successfully toured Europe and Asia, including Japan, with The Dragon by Evgeny Schwartz. In the 1960s, he became the intendant of the Volksbühne, often working with Heine Müller. In the 1970s, a parallel theater scene sprung up, creating theater outside of Berlin in which artists played at provincial theaters. For example, Peter Soden founded the Noise Theatre in Halle/Sull, and Frank Castor fed the theatre on Clam. Theatre and cabaret had high status in the GDR, which allowed it to be very proactive. This often brought it into confrontation with the state. Benno Besson once said, in contrast to artists in the West, they took us seriously, we had a bearing. 143, K. The Friedrichstadtpalast in Berlin is the last major building erected by the GDR, making it an exceptional architectural testimony to how Germany overcame its former division. Here, Berlin's Great Review tradition lives on, today bringing viewers state-of-the-art shows. 144. Volksbühne. Important theaters include the Berliner Ensemble, 145. The Deutsches Theater, 146. The Maxim Gorki Theater, 147, and der Volksbühne. 148. Cinema. The prolific cinema of East Germany was headed by the DFA, 149. Deutsche Film AG, which was subdivided in different local groups, for example Gruppe Berlin, Gruppe Babelsberg or Gruppe Johannisthal, where the local teams shot and produced films. The East German industry became known worldwide for its productions, especially children's movies, Das Kalthus, film versions of the Brothers Grimm fairy tales, and modern productions such as Das Schulgespenst. Frank Bayer's Jacob der Lügner, Jacob the Liar, about the Holocaust, and Fünf Patronen Hülsen, 5 cartridges, about resistance against fascism, become internationally famous. 150, films about daily life, such as Die Legende von Paul und Paula, by Heiner Caro, and Solo Sunny, directed by Konrad Wolf and Wolfgang Kohlhaas, were very popular. 151. The film industry was remarkable for its production of Ostern, or Western-like movies. Amerindians in these films often took the role of displaced people who fight for their rights, in contrast to the North American Westerns of the time, where they were often either not mentioned at all or are portrayed as the villains. Yugoslavs were often cast as Native Americans because of the small number of Native Americans in Europe. Gojko Mitic was well known in these roles, often playing the righteous, kind-hearted and charming chief, Die Sondergroßen Baron, directed by Joseph Mack. He became an honorary Sioux chief when he visited United States in the 1990s, and the television crew accompanying him showed the tribe one of his movies. American actor and singer Dean Reed, an expatriate who lived in East Germany, also starred in several films. These films were part of the phenomenon of Europe producing alternative films about the colonization of Americas. Cinemas in the GDR also showed foreign films. Czechoslovak and Polish productions were more common, but certain Western movies were shown, though their numbers of these were limited because it cost foreign exchange to buy the licenses. Further, films representing or glorifying what the state viewed as capitalist ideology were not bought. Comedies enjoyed great popularity, such as the Danish Olsen Gang or movies with the French comedian Louis de Funès. Since the fall of the Berlin Wall, several films depicting life in the GDR have been critically acclaimed. Some of the most notable were Goodbye Lenin, by Wolfgang Becker, 152. Das Leben der Anderen, The Lives of Others, by Florian Henkel von Donnersmarck, won the Academy Award for Best Film in a Foreign Language, in 2006, 153, and Als auf Zucker, Go for Zucker, by Danny Levi. Each film is heavily infused with cultural nuances unique to life in the GDR. 154, Sport. East Germany was very successful in the sports of cycling, weightlifting, swimming, gymnastics, track and field, boxing, ice skating, and winter sports. These success is largely attributed to doping under the direction of Manfred Hoppner, a sports doctor. described as the architect of East Germany's state-sponsored drug program. 155. Anabolic steroids were the most detected doping substances in IOC-accredited laboratories for many years. 156. 157. The development